Hey everybody, Books and Booze Podcast. We're here, a little hiatus, we're back. We're starting the show off with a little Buffalo Trace Bourbon. Glasses up, cheers.
Cheers. All right.
What do you guys think?
That's definitely a little full body, a little thick there. Definitely something that you want to sip and you have to take your time with.
Yeah.
But I've had some bourbons that I really did not enjoy. This is, it's kind of nice. You know, it's a little on the mellow side, you know, and I definitely drink this again.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like it. This one seems kind of like thick to me, like almost like a little syrupy.
Yeah, it's good. This is good, like sipping bourbon, and it's, I think it's maybe $22. Like this is well worth the price for the bottle. It's a good bottle. Today we are reviewing a book about Richard Feynman. Now this book has like a gazillion 5-star reviews on Amazon. I felt like I needed to check it out. Tim Ferriss has referenced it, Ramit Sethi has referenced it, a bunch of Tim Ferriss's guests. I thought I gotta try this. This book is a collection of short stories about Feynman's life, which spans all the way from stuff that he did before World War II, all the way up in, I think, to the 80s and 90s. Much like Gaffigan's book, it's not really connected, it's a lot of little things. Was there a story that stuck out to you guys about his life?
Yeah, for me it was when he talks, I mean, kind of all the stories that center around his childhood lab. And he talks about how he made his own fuses, he made his own like little warning bulbs, you know, he made these circuits, and I'm like, how did he make that stuff? It was all in this wooden crate, it was very complex, and he was like, oh yeah, so when I was a kid I had a little lab, and he talks about it very nonchalantly, but I couldn't help but wonder, how did he even get started doing that stuff, and how did he find these makeshift ways to make circuits? You know, this is obviously way pre-internet.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You could Google like how to make a circuit out of old parts.
Yeah, and financially he was not well off. So like, where did he figure this stuff out? And there wasn't a lot of, you know, electronic savvy in general in the culture. So I just kept thinking he must have been a genius. You know, even the way he describes how he learned and laments the lack of actual knowledge. He talks about how most people's knowledge is very fragile, that if you just phrase a question slightly differently, they'll be totally lost.
Right. Well, you know what? I think that he just, like I say, he's one of those people that was just exceptional. When you talk about when he was working at Los Alamos, he didn't even have his bachelor's degree done by the time he was working at, you know, the most secretive lab that the United States had ever built to build, you know, the atomic bomb. And so the guy was like way ahead of the game, you know.
Yeah, and he mentions it very nonchalantly.
Right.
It's just, yeah, and I was working over here, and then I went to Los Alamos to work on the Manhattan Project.
Right.
And then the next thing I did was marry my wife. Just like, it's one little, like, I did this, and then...
Full road marker.
Yeah.
Right. My favorite story is centered around working at the lab, because I have... you know, I've been fortunate to actually go to the Nevada test site and take some classes there when I was in the military. And, you know, I got a bit of an interest in that whole era, the Cold War, World War II, and that kind of thing. And he was there with some of the greats, like Oppenheimer, Niels Bohr, some of these other guys that, you know, are just, you know, great in atomic science. These are like the big names. And, you know, I thought it was kind of interesting also the fact that he was able to give a course and have Einstein come in and sit in on the lecture and actually have a discourse about his work with another professor. You know, that's incredible. I mean, he was around at the time when the whole physics thing just blew up, and that's what stood out to me, you know.
I liked, you know, he's a very, like Brian was saying, he's a genius, and you can kind of see that he's had a little bit of coaching on how to break this down so the layman can understand it. Not all the stories have that. Quite a few of them go way deep in the weeds in terms of physics, stuff that I was a liberal arts major, communications, because I didn't want to do anything with math and science. I thought, what's the easiest way for me to get out of college and not have to do that kind of stuff? So when this got a little deep into the physics stuff, I kind of found those stories difficult. But what I did enjoy was seeing his perspective as a scientist talk about things that most people deal with on a daily basis. And one of them was how he picked up women. And I thought,
yeah,
because he's such a genius,
Right.
and like in his mind, he thought, all right, I see these other men at the bar buying drinks for these girls, and that's what I should probably do.
Right.
And so he got to know this troupe of dancers. I think it was in like New Mexico or something like that. And he got to know them, and he'd buy them all these drinks, and then kind of think like, all right, you know, things are going well. Maybe I'll leave with one of these ladies, and then just move on to another dude and drink with the other guy. So he befriends one of them and sees that, oh, she's married. So he puts all the pieces together and finds out from the husband's kind of managing this dance troupe that the way to get these women to sleep with him is to be a little bit rude and not pay for everything. And he does it, and it works like several times. And I thought it was just funny to have him like be along for that experience, to see him process through like
Right.
the scientific method.
And
on how to
before
pick
we
a woman.
get lots of hate comments from feminists, we think it's humorous, but we are not endorsing anybody
don't
do that.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Don't do that. That's not what we're about. But
Okay, so I really liked on that note the story before when he asked he asked that waitress out the first time he ever asked a girl on a date, and his frat brothers when they find out about it, they say, oh no, this is terrible. She's not of our social standing. So they go back and convince the waitress that not to go to this frat party.
Right.
And I really appreciate what he said after that. He said, I was young, I didn't have enough confidence yet, but if I was a little bit older and had a little more confidence, I wish I had stood up for myself and actually taken her to the party. And I thought, yeah, he's a good guy. He recognized that was a wrong thing to do to a lady.
Right. You know, and it's just the gall of these guys are supposed to be your friends. They're protecting the social standing of the organization, or you know, the clique or whatever it is. Now, this is the woman that I want to go out with. It doesn't matter who you want. This is who I want. Yeah. You know, but
one of the interesting things, and it's a theme throughout the book, is how curious he is about everything. And I hope that after reading this book, I can kind of adopt that too, because it's not just curiosity about, you know, science, for example, because he's a scientist, but he read an article about bloodhounds and how bloodhounds could sniff things out. So you think, well, yeah, there's a dog, super powerful nose, that's what God made him. You know, when we smell soup, we just smell soup. When a dog smells soup, they smell the meat, they smell the broth, they smell the vegetables.
Right.
So what he did is he thought, if a dog can sniff out, you know, where somebody's been or a garment of clothing they had, I should be able to do that too on a much smaller scale. So he would go to parties and like go into a room and pull, you know, find a bookshelf that had been undisturbed for a while and have somebody narrow it down to, you know, okay, of these 5 books, select a couple people to go in and pull a book off the shelf, and then he would smell their hands afterwards, and he could guess which book they had picked out. And he said there's a lot of little things, like if someone's had their hand in their pocket, they've been handing loose change or keys, there's a metallic smell, they've been smoking a cigarette, and that would be kind of on the book. I thought we'd try that right now. But I enjoyed that there was that curiosity. Oh, you touched the encyclopedia over there.
Right.
So,
Really?
oh man,
Said that.
Brian's got half a drink in. But the curiosity factor, was there any curious tales in this book or aspects of that stuck out to you guys about being curious?
Well, for me, the whole thing, when he moved out to the West Coast and was working at Caltech, how he would go down to the black community and learn how to play the drums from the African drum teacher that was there. I mean, at that time, it was kind of like, you know, we belong on this side of the tracks, you belong on those side of the tracks, that kind of thing. But he didn't let that stop his intellectual curiosity. He wanted to learn how to play so badly that he just, you know, went for broke, and that's what he did. And you know, I think that was a good story.
Yeah. Similarly, somehow he met a girl who was deaf at a dance or something.
Yeah.
And he noticed that she was gesturing with another woman, and kind of figured out they were deaf, and they kind of gestured to him that they were going to a different dance. He said, "Oh, I'd love to come with you." And then they went to a dance for all deaf people. And he said he was having a great time, like in figuring out what the sign language meant, and he figured out a whole bunch out at just one dance. And he said it was a wonderful party. He really, really enjoyed it.
Right. You know, I think it's kind of interesting because they say some deaf people do know how to dance to the beat. They can feel it in the
Yeah.
floor,
Feel the rhythm,
and that kind of thing. So I just wonder how long does it have to be, you know,
Yeah.
you know, what is the volume level?
They, you know, along with that curiosity, the other thing that separated Feynman was the fact that he would look and see that not everything was the way it needed to be. If someone said this is the rules on how something happens, there was other ways you could go around it. He was not afraid to kind of challenge that and ask questions.
Right.
And there's one story where he meets a painter at a restaurant. He's at this restaurant, he's eating lunch, and the painter's like, yeah, he starts chatting him up, asking him, how do you mix colors, this and that, and the painter says, yeah, I can make yellow paint from mixing red and white paint. And he's like, thinks to himself, I've been studying, you know, the color spectrum, I should know this, it doesn't sound right. And so he basically challenges this old painter. It's like, well, can you show me how that works? Yeah, go buy some paint. So he goes and buys red and white paint, mixes them together, lo and behold, pink comes out.
Right.
You don't get yellow from that. But I liked that there, you know, had the ability to challenge these things. There's something you guys think that, is there a rule that you challenged in life, kind of just because everyone says you have to do it this way, but then like, maybe not. Is there anything that stands out like that? I know you kind of like to challenge the rules.
Oh man, I'm saying that is my life, challenging all the rules. Okay, so
nightmare.
You're gonna love this. This actually happened yesterday. So I'm such a non-conformist that sometimes I forget where I am. So yesterday I was at a drill, and somebody came and told me, hey, the CO wants to talk to you. So what you're supposed to do is you knock on the door, the CO says enter, you step in, you stand at attention, you know, Sergeant Nick reporting, sir, and he says, you know, come in, you come in, you sit at attention, he talks to you, says dismissed, and you know, you stand up, salute you, walk out. I just, none of that came to me. I just knocked on the door, he said come in, I sat down, I was like, hey, how you doing, sir, what's up? I'm chatting with him, and he's like, all right, I stand up to leave, and he says dismiss, and I kind of look at him like, why are you saying that? And I walk out. And it wasn't until my platoon sergeant came up to me like an hour later, like, what did you do in the CO's office? Did you forget to salute him and stand at attention? I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh, here we go.
That was not good. So that was yesterday. That was from the last 24 hours.
It's pretty good.
Jesus. Challenging? No, I'm pretty much like a conformist. Do I challenge? Well, sometimes, you know, I might get lippy with the bug just a little bit. You know, that kind of thing. Because the last time I got just upset at my boss and told her I wasn't going to do something, hey, she handed it to me. She just, everything that I was doing wrong, she wrote it down on this form called a notice to correct, and it goes in your personnel file. See, it just even sounds bad, notice to correct. And, you know, I was just like, oh, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. And she was like, okay, we'll see about all that. So after that, I kind of learned my lesson. Just go on with the program, and you know everything's gonna be all right. You know, that kind of thing. So I'm sure there are things that I've done that I shouldn't have done, but offhand right now, I just can't come up with anything.
I think that the key is knowing when you can break those rules. Right. I mean, we could all drive.
I don't know, because Feynman talks about, you know, that summer he worked at that resort.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of things that were basically slowing down productivity, causing the resort extra expense, and he thought through 3 or 4 pretty smart ways to save money, to save time, and to save expense for the resort. And he pushed the boundaries, and he got in trouble for every one of them. They were just like, this is not the way things are done. And you know, he's like, but we can save money here. And like, right. No, but we don't do it that way. We don't cut potatoes that way. We don't cut green beans that way. So, I don't know, he got in trouble, you know, he like almost got fired for that.
Right.
He had a weird thing that I wish I had more of, where to say he didn't care isn't right, but I think the opinions of others, especially in circumstances like that, did not matter to him. Like, he kind of went like, well, why would we peel these potatoes individually? This is stupid. There's a much faster way to do this. His brain was more on track with the, let's get this done quicker, more efficiently. That's kind of the old engineer mantra.
So you know where else that came out? His where he didn't care. He talks about the water and the nickel trick at the restaurant. So he basically takes a glass full of water. He puts a coaster on it, I think, and drops a nickel in it, flips it upside down, pulls the coaster out so that if the waitress wants to get the nickel, she's got to lift the cup up and it spills everywhere. Of course, there is another solution, and so it was kind of a test to see if the waitress would take the time to think through it, and she didn't. So he gets up and leaves, and she pulls up the first one. Actually, so he left 2 tips. She pulls up the first one, water goes everywhere. Now she sees a second tip there, and she's thinking what to do. She brings the manager over. They're thinking about it. They can't figure it out, so they just pick the cup up and water goes everywhere. Okay, so he comes back in the next time, and this is what really hit me. There's a new waitress serving him. And she says, yeah, your old waitress won't serve you anymore. She's really angry at you, and so is the manager, and they won't serve you. And the way he talks about that, he said, oh, it was such a delight. It was such great fun to challenge them. I was thinking, man, I'd want to go over and apologize to that waitress. I'd be concerned that I upset her and made her life more difficult. Well,
you would.
I would hope that I would. Made a mess. Somebody had to clean up the mess just so I could have some fun with a nickel. That's what I was thinking. But he didn't give the slightest hint that he cared about inconveniencing everybody else at all. And I think we'd all love to be a little more like that, to have a little less anxiety.
Yeah.
And it seemed like a unique thing to me.
Right. Yeah, he definitely was an unconventional thinker. He just went from, like you said, his whole streak of curiosity. It was incredible. He was a Renaissance kind of guy. Whatever he wanted to learn, he learned. That's all there was to it. There was no reason not to learn it. It was there to do. Like the picking the locks. And all that kind of stuff. This was like Los Alamos, like you said, the Manhattan Project, and he's going to the office and opening up secret files, and telling the guy, I'm looking for a certain file, and the guy goes, well, let me get it for you guys. Don't worry about it, I already got it right here for you. The guy picked this lock on the secret file, and it's like, come on, man.
That can get you shot.
Right.
Yeah, that was like, would have been treason back then or something. So overall, there's a whole lot of little things in this book. Brian, do you think this is a book people should read? Would you recommend this book?
Absolutely. One of the nice things about this book is that it doesn't have to be a straight-through read. You can pick up chapter 10 and read, and the fact that you've missed the first 9 chapters doesn't matter at all. It's very self-contained, all these little stories. Yeah, it's a fun read.
Yeah. You know what? I enjoyed it. The only problem is that I think he got bogged down a little bit in the science of some things. Because when he starts out with the original part of the story, he's trying to set the stage for the physics lesson at the end, but the fun part was started to get really short, and the physics lesson got really long. And I enjoy science, that kind of thing. But if I wanted that level of information, I would probably be better suited picking up. What are you saying? Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. No.
We'll edit that out.
Right. No, you won't. Yeah. That's whatever. Yeah. But yeah, and beyond that, it was enjoyable.
Yeah, this is what I call the perfect kind of a lunch break read, because you can pick it up, read for 10-15 minutes, and put it away, and it's not like you're going to miss anything, or all the stories are relatively short. I think, as we both kind of mentioned, if there's something that gets too much into the physics, or it's a topic that you're not really interested in, go ahead and skip it and just move on to the next one. This is not like...
Don't punish yourself.
Yeah, don't punish yourself. I punished myself through a couple chapters that were just a lot of neutrons and electrons, and it's not really my thing. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back very soon.